Right. No, they ran it.
They did the most damage, by the way.
Well, it was running pretty even until she threw into the race. But regardless of, like, that's a ballot initiative. When we're looking at things like Ted Stevens, Don Young, Frank Murkowski, who spent, many, many years going to Washington, how much could the corporations sort of rely on them and throw them a bone when they needed to?
Right now, I don't think that the business community has any idea what to make of what just happened. It's sort of like, what was that just flew over? You don't
think they've been gunning for that for a while?
No. I don't think the Alaska company certainly have. And this is not necessarily all good news for them. This is sort of like, as I mentioned, it's like it's getting a surprise visit from your mother-in-law. You're going, nice to see you, Mom. How long are you going to be staying?
Right, if she's a vampire.
Right now, yeah. Well, but now what's going to happen? It's going to be up to the lawyers. I think everybody agrees that something has to be done to level the playing field. You can't have these big multi-billion-dollar corporations getting that kind of voice in the public arena if the average voter just has a much lower voice. I saw an interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
I saw an interesting article in the Wall Street Journal. It was a column by a Yale professor whose name I can't remember, and a Democratic member of Congress, a Democrat, if you can believe that. But for
heaven forbid.
I mean, coming up with a good idea.
Hey, we just finally got one of them.
But their proposal was for something that's already taking place in some parts of the country, and that is to give a $50 tax credit that voters can use for any candidate of their choice. So every voter gets $50 in forms of a tax credit that they can use to support a candidate. Now, I don't know. All I know is what I read in that column. But the amount of money would just overwhelm anything that the private sector could come up with if they actually did that.
I don't know.
I don't know if it's practical or not. But
some of them have a lot of money. I understand.
Yeah, but they also want to hang on to it. That's another reason why so these companies are not all that anxious to see this happening, because they can see all these politicians coming to them and saying, spend more money, I want you to do this, and the last thing in the world they want to do is spend more money.
Well, I think it can go both ways, but I have a sneaky suspicion that, like, the solar panel people have less money to spend on campaigns than, say, Exxon.
You know what I'm saying about it?
And we got to run to a break, but Steve, I know you have something brilliant.
Big time.
Hatching over there. It's incubating. I've seen you. You're like, we need a seatbelt for Steve Heimel, please. I'm Shannon Moore. This is More Up North. We'll be back with more of our panel. Okay. Thank God we're back. Hey, you can come down any Thursday night with us, 5:30 at Bernie's Bungalow, and be part of our live audience, which, as you can hear, is kind of a hoot. My guests, Tom Brennan, Bob Poe, and Steve Heimel, are here with us, and we're talking about the Supreme Court decision, how it's going to affect Alaska, and what it really means. And Steve Heimel is about ready to bust out of his seatbelt. So, Steve, give us your moment of brilliance.
All right, what are we going to do about the lies? I'm really concerned about this because if you examine how the courts have upheld the right of free speech in campaigns, they basically allow more latitude. They don't want to mess with whether or not it's true. Mm-hmm. And I'm really worried about the massive amount of spending that is likely to come charging it at strategic moments in a campaign, like suddenly Shell realizes if Bob Poe gets elected, that's it for their offshore in the Arctic Ocean. So all of a sudden Shell just pounds, like $30 million into, anti-Bob Poe stuff, naming him, lying about him, and there's no enforcement whatsoever of this.
Right.
All you can do is file some complaint. It's too late. The election's over. How are we going to fix this? It seems to me I kind of like the reasoning of this Jesuit John Roberts. Maybe there's the tightness of the reasoning can advantage more truth squatting, more other forms of free speech that kind of open things up, air them out, and let people work out the truth for themselves. I think that's what we need. I think we need more voices speaking more freely, a really free and vigorous debate. And I think the court likes that. I think after the Kennedy's opinion, if you read it, it's all about how we really have to take free speech seriously. Well, we do. This is the same court that said that bong hits for Jesus was out of line, but still.
Right. Bong hits for Jesus is out of line. But I don't know what they're smoking to come up with Walmart is a person and has freedom of speech.
The issue is that one is free speech and giving that as wide a berth as possible.
Freedom to lie.
Yeah. Well, freedom. Yeah.
I mean, that's people
maybe.
have used it, you know.
But I think the bigger question is who gets to have that speech. And what this decision did is gave a group who are universally better heeled than the average person a bigger voice. That's really the question. And so now you got to back up, and if you, as a Jesuit-educated guy, so I was interested in your comment about the Chief Justice.
But not a priest.
Not a priest, definitely not. The argument about the corporation being a person is really the issue here, because it all hems around that. And you know, Tom Hartman, who came up here with Air America, has written a book, I think it's Unequal Representation. Let's see, I have it.
Unequal protection,
Unequal protection is what it is. And basically what he points out is that in 1886, there was a Santa Clara versus Southern Pacific Railroad decision where it was a decision about did a corporation actually represent an individual? Was it a person in the law? And the decision was it wasn't a person. And then the guy who wrote the header line said a decision regarding the personhood of a corporation.
And the guy that wrote it was the son of a railroad tycoon.
Right.
I mean, it was all on purpose.
Since that point, the idea of precedence has built on that one point. Now, I'm a business guy. I've got a degree in finance, an MBA. I got an MBA in the 70s when there weren't many MBAs running around. I like business. I like putting businesses together. I think business is generally a really good thing. But you know, the idea that a corporation's taxes a person. So the corporation pays an income tax, the shareholders pay a tax on the dividend. I could get my hands around that. A corporation can sue and be sued. All right, I can understand that. But this idea that they have First Amendment rights to free speech is starting to make me wonder. And it comes back to...
Starting?
Just let me, given that I have this business background. So I look at this thing we were told back in September of 2008. These banks, these insurance companies are too big to fail. And I'm thinking, what business professor ran us through the too big to fail strategy during my MBA program? I don't remember that one at all. And so the taxpayers have to bail these companies out, and we don't get so much as a I'm sorry. Now,
are you kidding? I'm sorry. I think what we got was a different gesture completely.
Well, we might have. Now, here's the last thing I want to say about the personhood thing. So what corporations seem to want in these arguments for free speech is they want personhood when it suits them, and they don't want to be persons when it doesn't suit them. So let's take Bill Gates, Oprah, Warren Buffett. If those guys were declaring bankruptcy, I doubt the taxpayers would be asked to bail them out. They suffer the negatives on their investments when they go down. They suffer the benefits when they go up. But they're individuals who put their money at risk. And we would say, well, that's America. This is a place where you have the freedom to succeed or freedom to fail.
Right.
But I don't see where corporations get this special personhood protection when it's beneficial to them.
Right. We know exactly when